Hi everyone, I'm Milo Melino, the Women Students Liaison. I'm speaking today from the unceded stone lands of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam nations. And today I'm going to speak with Carina about the game industry. Hi, Carina.
Hi, Maya. So nice of you to have me here.
No, it's nice of you to come here. I'm honored. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes. So, Maya, I am a video game producer. Before we start the interview, I just need to let everyone know that I work for Electronic Arts. However, all opinions today are of my own. I won't be referencing any EA confidential techniques or tool sets or any information regarding my employer. But I have a really interesting story to share with you, and I'd love to have a great interview for today.
So tell us a little bit about like how it is to be a game producer, like what you do, your day to day, how you got there.
Right, that's a lot to explain in a 20-minute interview. Let's start with what I do. So I'm a video game producer. I know that can be quite niche for some people because video games are a rising digital interactive experience that's helping to support the Canadian economy. And we love game developers. I want more game developers to come into the mix because a video game producer works very closely with people. We are a mix of business development, people development, and process development. So within that field of scope, my day-to-day looks like working with a team, managing and organizing a schedule, and procuring or understanding what I need to do to make that true in terms of budget. So a producer is kind of like a project manager in that sense. I like to think about it as a glorified game designer slash developer with wearing many different hats every single day.
That's cool. How you got there? Like you've always wanted to be a game producer. You always wanted to work with games. It's something that happened. Or like, was it organic? Was it like, no, this is my goal. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah, I mean, as a woman, I grew up with a lot of men. So when I was growing up, I watched my cousins and my older siblings playing video games on consoles like NES or the um, the new PlayStation, Sega. I had a Game Boy, and I always found myself as a means of distraction playing video games. But I also, through that distraction, learned to really love the experience. It was so immersive, even at that level when you're playing through a Game Boy and it's 2D and it's pixel, but it's still somehow so immersive. And so I identified at an early age that I really loved playing video games. Weird. I think a lot of people can kind of relate to either you watch TV, you read books, or for me, it was playing video games. And so I didn't really think it was a viable career option for me. I struggled a little bit in the first uh, early life to figure out what I wanted to do. But I fell into video game development because a mentor of mine suggested that I go into it. Um, I had a good friend who at the time worked for Electronic Arts and brought me into their studio at the time. I was very young. I was still a teenager trying to figure myself out. I didn't realize I could do this, but I had this tour of EA and I thought, that's super cool. I wouldn't mind doing this. And so naturally, I kind of just fell into it. I didn't start out as a producer. I worked my way from the very bottom all the way to the top. So I started out in quality assurance with an aspiration of becoming a game designer. Is like I said, when I was a kid, I loved playing video games, and I would think about why do I like this so much, and why do other people like this so much? In fact, and game design really spoke to me in that way because we got to see the types of feedback loops that engaged the players. We could see them smile. You could see the effects that made people excited to play and share an experience through an interactive platform. So I came in as a quality assurance tester with the aspiration of game development to be a game designer. And eventually I just worked my way through game design. I was lucky enough to be nominated for a few awards as a game designer. And then eventually I, through a mix of working through studios and freelancing, pushed my own title and eventually decided that I wanted to see what it was like on the AAA side. And that's when I became more of a producer. So from all the experience that I gained hustling as a QA tester and game designer, it's foremost where my experience lies as a game designer. I was with smaller studios, and when I was able to freelance and publish my own game, I became a producer, having understood everything that goes into game design to produce a game. I thought it would be a good switch at that time to become a producer.
That's a very enlightening of how uh, the trajectory is like to make a game and like to navigate the different sides of the game industry. Let me ask you something. So unfortunately, the gaming community can be a little bit toxic and sexist. I say can be because like we've been seeing like for a while now, it's not deniable anymore. But the fun thing is most researchers show that nowadays the gaming public is majority women. So do you think that, how can I put this? Do you think that the industry is letting this larger group down because they still think that women are not the focus? Or they think that if they're gonna focus on women, they need to do like games that are not what they are doing right now, and not like they don't realize that no, women like those games, they're playing those games right now, they just want like a safer environment to be there.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a very complex issue that you're describing. Game developers know that, I mean, we should all know, hopefully, anyone watching this should know that the majority of people who are playing video games are mostly men. However, women make up for at least 46%. So almost half, right? And we should be aware of that fact because that number increases every single year. Women have more opportunities to play video games now more than ever. Previously, we might not have had that. We might not have been exposed to it. But now that we have access to it, we are seeing the rise of women coming into games. And some of the factors of why we have this stigmatism about video games being a boys' club is that it is guarded from some truth. Previously, a decade ago, when video games was on the rise of becoming a hot industry to join, it was predominantly men who worked in this field, cisgendered white men specifically. And even the latest 2017 IGDA surveys up until the latest 2020 IGDA surveys can show us that the discrepancy of gender has largely been made, comprised of white men. 1% are Black developers, 2%, less than 2%, are Latinx and Asian game developers. So you can kind of see that predominantly the gaming industry has been referred to as a boys' club because it has been for so long. And why don't we see women becoming gamers yet? Because games were predominantly made by men. Now, as I said in the beginning, every game developer should know that there are at least 46% of the population who play video games are female, and they're starting to adjust. So now we're starting to see a bit more inclusivity. Now we're seeing some diversity, and we're also seeing women in game development in leadership positions. And that means that women have an opportunity to participate at the table and to voice their concerns about the games and the quality and the visual identity of what a game might entail. I have so many examples to share about video games, but the classic example of a woman not being present at the table when a game is being made, when decisions are being made, old school Lara Croft, for example. Any fighting game, medieval fighting game, look at the women and what they're wearing. if a woman was at the table during those discussions, I doubt we would decide to wear bikini tops or chainmail bikinis, or none of us have rock hard abs. These are just things that women would intuitively know. But as the gaming industry is comprised mostly of men, this is the content that we've seen coming from the past, and you can see now, if you look at cyberpunk, if you look at even South Park, there is lots of gender inclusivity, color recognition. There's lots of trans matters that are also addressed in video games, because more women, more trans, more people of different identities are coming to the table and supporting the cause.
It's what we need, right? Like more diversity at the table, and the world could be a better place.
That's
No.
right. That's right. And it comes from the top level of the game developers. We know this is a problem. We are addressing the problem here. But we also have to address the problem on the community level. The community level is also what drives video game sales. It creates culture. And if you have a game with a bad culture, it's very hard to rectify. Game developers need to know that it does happen at the top where we are making the video games. We have to be inclusive. We have to include more women and people of diverse nature at the table. But we also have to consider, how do we educate our community? The people who receive the end product from us, they need to be able to handle what we're throwing at them. Otherwise, we get into situations of hashtag Gamergate.
Things are never simple. Um, um, it doesn't have to be on the game industry, okay? But what, like, can you tell me a woman that inspires you?
Yep, yeah, for sure. Right now, it's Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, because there have been many women in positions of power up until this point, but officially speaking, a woman has never been so close to having this much authority since the 1800s. Surprisingly, there are also women who sit on the national defense units of American politics, but I really appreciate Kamala Harris for speaking up, for being present, and for looking good while doing it too.
But is there like a game that you know that women worked on, that you say like, this one is going like in the right direction, this one is one that I love?
Yeah, I do, and I also, if we can add more to women that I look up to, I'll add that at the end. So one game that I really like, that I know women have been involved with, is Dream Daddy Dating Simulator. It is as the name would suggest, it's a simulator for gay men to date, and they are dads. And what I love about this game so much is that you can choose your body type, you can choose your skin color, and you can determine your backstory, because you're a dad, right? So you have a backstory about your partner, your mysterious partner, who's gone now, and you have a child as well. So there's actually a lot of intricate emotional things happening in that it's an interactive novel, a game, but it's done so nicely, and it's got high quality graphics. It's got a pretty good story, and it's made by women. I think it was very innovative for how they launched their social media campaign, and I thought this was such a great reminder that more diverse people are coming to the table. It doesn't just have to be women, but with more diverse people like women, we will have games like Dream Daddy Dating Simulator that speak to many types of people.
That's really I never heard about it, so and now I'm like really curious.
Go for it. I think
I'm
you'll like
definitely
it.
gonna super gonna search that.
The theme song is
Um,
amazing.
yeah, like it sounded amazing. Um, so you are a volunteer on another. It's not an entrepreneurship, but another like initiative for helping small developers, the PvP.
That's right.
Can you tell
Sure.
us a little bit about like what is the PvP and what you do and how that helps not only women in like in the game industry but like the game industry as a whole here in Vancouver?
Yeah, so the PvP Circuit is a volunteer run organization. And what we do is to provide resources, free resources, and we educate developers who are interested in game development. Oftentimes, we find that creative people and aspiring game developers are so interested in their concept and fleshing it out and how they make the product come out at the end that they forget to consider the other discretionary implications of making a game, such as the business case and the target audience and the platform and the price points, production workflows. I mean, if you are an artist, you're really interested and invested in making the best art possible, and I want you to do that. As a producer, I want you to do that, but I also want you to consider where that's going to land and think about who that's going to reach. So the PvP circuit was founded on the idea that when you are pitching an idea and a concept for a game, you should be considering the entire pitch, not just a subset of your discipline. And it's a funny story. The PvP circuit has been around for since circa 2018. And like I said, mostly run by volunteers who I love very much, and I thank them every day. We started with on-site pitches for developers to come in with a microphone and talk about their pitches to us. And we've now since pivoted since the pandemic to virtual pitches from there. So I welcome anyone to come join our PvP circuit because it comes from a place of when I was freelancing and I was looking to publish a game, I was pitching to the wrong audience. I was pitching to people who didn't understand the lingo, who didn't understand the market, and therefore they weren't able to decode what it was I was saying about game development. And so we thought we would create a pitch circuit where you can come in and speak the lingo of game developers so that people like me will understand and try to help you.
Yeah, I love the PvP initiative.
We love you
It's like
too.
it's kind of like the Avengers, but for game developers. Like it's the PvP initiative, and they're gonna help.
Assemble. That's right.
Assemble. They're gonna help. Um, sorry. Um, Let me ask you: is there anything like maybe a word of advice that you would give women that are thinking about like ingressing the game industry and but they are still like maybe on the fence? They're like, yeah, I like this, but I don't know if I'll be good enough for this, or if my skill sets uh, are gonna fit, or if I am gonna fit. Because I feel that sometimes with like those industries there are seen as like super cool and super different, like the game industry. Well, nowadays it's more common, but it used to be something that would be like it seemed to be like super far away, like, oh, work on the game industry. It's getting better now, but it's not like a career as common as, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be an engineer, or I'm going to be a lawyer. So what do you say like for people that are thinking, but I really like this, but I don't know if I should have a career at this?
Right, right. Well, I would advise everyone thinking about the gaming industry as a career option to seriously consider it, because this is the best place in the world. We have beer, we have cookies, we have fun every single day. But ultimately, with all work and all things that you do for 40 hours a week or however long you choose to do it, it is a job. So when you are considering this as a viable option for your career, please consider this as a job and try to understand what that job entails. Try to be as professional as you can entering the workforce so that we can continue to produce good games. We know that the gaming industry is a booming industry. It's survived a pandemic, and in fact, it produces revenues that are double film and sports to some degree. Some sports, not all sports, but some sports. So we know that the gaming industry is a career that you can choose. Try to come in understanding what you're signing up for at the indie level, the AA level, and the AAA level, and have that professionalism with you so that you can make it a long-standing career.
Another tricky question on that matter. So you think that it's like utterly necessary to be a programmer or to have this mathematical brain to work in this industry, or is it something that it's broader than most people think?
It's
Because like
much broader.
I feel that usually people think that, oh, gaming industry, so I'm gonna have to code and I'm gonna, yeah, that's it, or I'm gonna have to be an artist.
Mm, mm,
There's more
mm.
to it, right?
There is way more to video games than what I think the average person realizes. Uh, is if you, only about 40% of what goes into a video game is the core of creation. The rest of it is marketing, for example, journalism, production. There are so many other pieces of game development that we don't think about. Even management could be considered an option for you if you have that background. IT is a background that we cannot make games without IT, for example. And so, no, you don't need to have a computer brain to come join this industry. A lot of people who are in the industry are very creatively set in their mind. And it's just a matter of can you work together with someone? Do you understand the organization composition of the team that you're in, especially when you think about the indie levels all the way up into the AAA levels of big blockbuster games? When you are, for example, when you are on the smaller indie side of development, there is a big probability, a strong probability that you will be wearing many hats and you will be responsible for code and art and design. However, if you were to set your sights on a more AAA project environment, then you can maybe focus on your craft a bit more. So again, what I was saying before with the advice, come at this very professionally and try to understand the different studio levels and types and see where you can fit in, because there are lots and lots of jobs in this industry that if you just put your mind to it, you can be that and be productive and contributing towards a bigger goal.
Thank you. Well, last question. Um, what do you think the future entails for women in games?
I would love to see more women in leadership positions. I would love to see more women at the table making executive creative decisions specifically. Because I would love to see more storytelling from the perspective that it's not white men, plainly put. I can't speak to exactly what will happen in our future for women, but I would like all the women that are watching this today to collaborate with one another through the many channels that we have in Vancouver, such as the Women in Games Vancouver group, the Diversity Inclusion group. There are tons of places to go as women to collaborate and to support each other, to empower each other. One really big thing here, if I can really focus your attention for women, please don't be competitive with other women in a way that is derogatory or condescending, because we're all still learning, and sometimes we find that even as women, we want to empower others, but there's a notion of an old guard. There's a notion of, I was here first and I had to endure so much to be here and to be the sole woman. Please, when you see another woman, be as welcoming as possible, because this is the only way that we can survive in here. We don't have to be that competitive. It's the only way for us to keep growing.
Women helping women. That's what it's all about. I remember the first time, like I don't know if it was the first time or yeah, I think it was the first time we talked, and I was talking about like when I do game jams, and that sometimes I have to be uh, the beachy in the room because I have to say no, we can't do that. We need like to change this or that because otherwise we're not going to finish the game. Because usually I during game jams I go for more of a production uh, job, And I remember you told me, I'm going to challenge you to change that to you were being a leader. And that literally changed how I saw myself talking and doing stuff for like most of what I do. I would stop and think, well, am I really being like bossy or wrong doing this, or I'm just like being the leadership that should be doing that? And I think like most women have this kind of thought because we are taught from the beginning to, oh, you can't do that, you have to be the mere like you have like, I can't say this word, but you have to be delicate. You can't fight. You can't be like upfront of things. And if you do, you were seen as like you're being hysterical. You were like, being a bitch instead of being a leader. And it was like amazing. Like during all my life, I never stopped to think about that. Well, I was just being a leader because if we stop and we think like men don't go through this, if they're doing those things, they're going to be seen as assertive, as like great leaders and doers. And when it's a woman, like the standards are different.
Mm.
And I have to say, like, that literally changed my life,
Wow.
like mind
Powerful.
blowing. And it was just so simple. Like, I'm going to challenge you to think about that as you're being a leader. And I was like, oh, like surprise Pikachu, the meme of surprise Pikachu. That was me.
Yeah, that was.
So I guess that every woman needs to like to hear this. You're not
Yes.
being a bitch. I'm sorry for using this word so many times, but you are not. You're being a leader. You're being assertive. You're doing what has to be done.
So Maya, this is for you one to one, and for everyone else, I guess, who's watching too. This is also for you. Yes, you are being a leader. You're not being a bitch. But again, follow the advice. Be as professional as you can possibly be. Because being a leader is very challenging. It can feel very negative when you are in a leadership position because sometimes you're going to have to ask someone to do something that they don't want to do. And as a leader, it's your job to encourage them and motivate them, compromise with them, try to work with them in some way so that they can collaborate and contribute to your project, especially in the production role. If you're a leader, even as an artist or an engineer or designer, sometimes you're going to have to ask someone to do something they don't want to do. Or you might have to pioneer a vision and it's very uncertain. And so you have to put on your big girl pants or your big boy pants or just your big pants and assume the leadership role, being as professional as possible. And if you can do that, then there is no opportunity for anyone to ever see you as a bitch because you're just doing your job.
See, you're just doing your job. Sometimes you need to hear that. Well, Karina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. This was amazing, mind blowing, mind opening. I hope everyone feels it because like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And I hope everyone is feeling it too because it was like great. And thank you so much for being here today.
You're so welcome and take care, everyone, during the pandemic. Play lots of video games. If you need any assistance, please look out for the PvP circuit because we will be there for you. And thank you so much, Maya, for your time today. I think you're making a big difference. And I love how passionate you are about promoting women and getting more women to the gaming industry.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, take care.